Hey guys, I just wanted to share something really nice with you. It's one of my courses. It's called Complete JavaScript and jQuery course. And in this course, I go through a lot of different stuff that a beginner or intermediate JavaScript developer who wants to learn or take his knowledge to a next level. That's some of the things that I go through in this course. But what I wanted to share with you is part of the course to see if this could help you. And this is my plugin here. If that course helps you, what I'm going to share with you in this video, there's going to be a link in the description if you are remotely interested in taking the whole course. So without any further ado, let's get started with this course. Hey, I am super excited you enrolled in this course. You're going to be extremely happy with all the information you're going to be learning. So just to give you a quick introduction, what you will be learning in here is some of the topics that are going to be very useful for you to know that all the companies that are currently hiring for JavaScript developer for their front end side, these are the topics that I'm going to be covering with you, so that way you are getting all the knowledge that industry is currently looking for. And then one of the topics that we're going to be deep diving into it, what is called browser object model. That is what your structure of the HTML is, how it works, and what elements you can manipulate and what elements you cannot manipulate with the DOM. And then what followed by the DOM, which is your document object model. This is the whenever your page is loaded, and then what you can do to further manipulate the HTML elements of that. And then we'll follow by in our JavaScript how to console log it rather than using an alert, which is just a pop-up. Console log is a much more effective way of looking at your code if the result is what you expected to see and what it actually produced it. And then we're going to go into how you can comment out your code, so in case later down the road, like for example 2-3 months from now, you look at your code, you'll be like, what the hell was I doing? That's where you can show or write your description to say, hey, this is what I meant to do and this is what the code is supposed to do. And then we're going to go deep dive into how variables, data types, different operators, and or so on and so forth, and then all of the essential loops that all of your industry leaders are looking for when they want to look at creating an application that they're going to be giving you to create for them, that way you can get paid. And then we're going to move into the functions, all the different functions that you can create, some of them that may need some parameters to go into the function, then you can take that value of the parameter and further manipulate it. And then we're gonna create our first JavaScript app, which is going to be very exciting stuff. I cannot wait for you to see it. And during building that app, you're gonna learn a whole lot of stuff. And then one of the things that you're gonna be learning is whether or not you should include your JavaScript file as an internal or external file. And that's something that you are really going to find it interesting. There are two ways to call your JavaScript code. One is internal, another one is external. And then followed by how you can easily manipulate any of the HTML entries or elements. For example, let's say you have a h1 tag, and in that tag there's some text that you want to change or modify or update via JavaScript or jQuery. I'm going to be showing you how you can easily do that, and this method is probably going to be the most effective way to change the view, like for example what you see on the page when the user does something. And that's something that we're going to be looking at in terms of events. If user clicks something, then what should the screen do? Or if user moves the mouse some way, what should the screen do? So that's something we're going to be doing it. And then followed by our application for our client that we're going to be building. And in there, we're going to create a very user-friendly menu. That way when our clients navigate to different things, he's going to have a great time and there will be no confusion whatsoever. So in short, we're going to be building an amazing application that you're going to be learning a lot. And then we are going to be wrapping it up with some additional feedback that you may have or question that you may have. You can feel free to reach out to me. So that's what you are going to be learning in this course, how to easily master JavaScript and jQuery. I'm really excited for you to take this course, and I'm so glad that you are in this course. So I'll see you in the next video. Alright, before we get started with this training course, let's go over some of the things that you're going to need for this training course. One of them is going to be a code editor, and second is going to be an internet browser that you're going to be using. So let's go over some of the options that you may have for the code editor. One of them is called JSBin. That is an online JavaScript editor which you can use. And if you want to use that, by all means, you can go to jsbin.com and use that for throughout this whole training course. And if you prefer to use something that you can download it, there are other options that I'm going to show you that are a lot better than just JSBin. But if you prefer to use JSBin, by all means go for it. And some of the options that I'm going to show you, not to worry, if you don't have to write down anything like that. There's going to be a link in the resources section in which you can click on it. It will take you right to it. So let's go to the next option. This one is called Sublime Text. You can go to sublimetext.com, and under the download section, you can just click on it. And this is the code editor that I'm going to be using. This is my personal favorite one. If you have used it, you know it's one of the greatest one in the marketplace. And let's go to the next one, which is called Node++. This is also a great editor that you can use and download it into your computer. And next one is called bracket.io. It's called brackets.io. This is also, I have heard great things about this particular editor, but I personally have not used it. But if you have used it, great, you can continue to use it. But if you have not and want to try it, you can go to brackets.io and download it by clicking on this link. And last but not least, there's also called Visual Studio code editor. You can use that. I have not used this personally, but if you want to, you can download it from here. And next thing you will need is a internet browser. I would recommend highly, if you don't have already installed it or are using it, use Google Chrome. It is one of the best browser in the marketplace at the moment, and I believe it's continued to be one of the great one in the future as well. And download this. This will come in handy a lot when we have to go through some of the different things that other browser does not support. So download this, and that's all you will need to get started. And like I said before, for this particular training course, I'll be using Sublime Text. So without any further ado, let's get started, and I will see you in the next video. Alright, in this video, I'm going to show you how you can use JavaScript to interact with your browser window. So the first thing what we want to do is we want to display something in the console log and in your Google Chrome. In order for you to see your console log, you can open up that dialog box with one of two ways. One of them is from the menu, and another one is from a shortcut. So I'm going to show you how you can do it from the menu first. So you go to these three dots, which is also known as Eclipse. You click on that, and then you go to More Tools, and then Developer Tools. This is going to open up your console log, which will be under the tab called Console. And another way to do it is you could just right click anywhere in your Google Chrome browser window, and then select the option called Inspect, or short key, which is Control Shift Plus I. And this will also open up your console. And then from here, you just go to the tab that is called console. And this is how you open up your console log. And let's just display something here at the bottom. So in order for you to display something in your console log, all you do is you go back to your HTML page and you, under the script tab, type in console.log, and then we're going to type in a string, which is called, just call this hello world ... and then save it. And if we reload the page, put your attention at the bottom right hand side of this section. Now it says hello world. Ooh. And it also tells us which line it showed it from, which is line number 10 on this page. And now if we want to do the same thing, because what we did was we just did it internally. Now if we want to do the same thing, call this console log from external file, we can just hop on over to our app.js, and in here we can type in external.js. And if we refresh the browser now, and at the bottom it says app.js, line number 1, hello world external.js, and then we have hello world. And now you might be wondering, how come this external one shows up before this? So let's go back to our HTML page. The reason being is because this line is getting called in the browser before this line. So if we want to move it down here, we can literally just move it, just a couple line breaks, and then hit save. And we could just refresh the browser, and now this external one is showing up as a second line. And another thing that I want to share with you is there is also a thing called commenting. You could comment out a single line, like for example, let me just do this, copy this. So if I want to comment out single line, all I have to do is in front of my line, I could just do / twice. That will comment it out. So this particular line of code will not interact with our browser, because it's going to say, hey, this is just a comment and we don't want to include it. And the reason for the comment is you want to make a note to yourself while you're writing a JavaScript, or if you're using a console.log during your testing phase, you can console it, and when your application becomes live, you want to not include it. So you could just comment it out like I did with one single line, or we can comment out the whole thing by doing / star, and then a couple lines down below, star, / again, and if we type something in here, it will come in available. So that's how you do commenting. So let me refresh the page. So what I'm expecting to see is only this line, and this line will not show up. So let's see. So voila, there you go. So now you know how to comment single line, multiple line, and how to console to your Google Chrome browser. So alright guys, I'll see you in the next video. Okay guys, in this video we're going to go over what are objects and what are arrays and how you can use them in your application. So let's just declare a variable called op, and then objects are known as different things that you can have values for. So for example, unlike your variable, which can only hold one value per variable name, but in objects you can have multiple different values for multiple different variable. So for example, let's just say I want to call it a object called name, and then I'll call this Mark. So like your variable, for example, if I want to call it a variable named Mark equal Mark, I could call it like this and then save it. However, in your objects, you can have, as I said before, let me just do this. So I can have a variable called mark, called site, called mark.com, and then ID called 12345, and then I can also have a type true. So one of the benefits of using objects is you can have different types of values with different types of names and entities. So in order for you to use an object, let me just make sure you understand it. You call a declare variable. You can call this anything you want. And also the variable, like we talked about in a previous video, it has to have a name which can only be a number and letters for better use and simplicity, so there is no conflict. And then after you declare a variable, you assign it by using an equal sign and then open bracket, and you close it with open bracket and then semicolon. And then within these brackets, in order for you to assign a value to a variable, all you use is a colon. So whatever name you want to call it, colon, and then the value you want to assign to it. So in this case, the very first one is called a string value, and then we have a numbers, and then also we have true or false, which is Boolean value. Just like your objects, arrays can use or store multiple different values. So let's just see how that works. So in this case, call it a var, I'll just call it A1 and bracket. This is what is known in JavaScript array. Bracket, open bracket, close bracket. And within this bracket, you can store value as a number, as an array, or string, and things of that nature. So let's just say, so for example, if I want to call it mark1, comma, mark2, comma, 1, comma, true. And if I want to console this, I'll call it A1. Let's just do this. Let's see how this works. So I want to console the object part of it, as well as the array value. See, let's see what this looks like in our browser. So if I do this, as you saw, unlike before, let me just do this as well. Actually, this will make more sense to you. So let's just say refresh this. So as you saw right here, the first one is just a name, just one value. And then your objects, if I open this up by pressing this little play button, it will expand it. It will show me all different values. This is your object. And then within array, which is the last one, it has an index, what is known as the index. So the very first value is called 0, 1, 2, and 3. This is how it works, and we will look at it when we go through a looping video series where how we loop through each one of these arrays. So just keep in mind that array, it starts with a 0 value, 1 value, 2, and 3. So this is what arrays it. If I want to call the whole array, I get the value of the whole thing. However, just for giggles, I could just say only give me value for 1. So if I refresh the browser now it's going to give me 2. If I want to get the value of 2, give me 1, so on and so forth for array. So hopefully that makes sense. So in summary, single variable will only give you one single value. For multiple variables, you can use one of two options. One of them is your object in which you can assign it, and you can call any one of them. So for example, if I have an object and I only want to get the name of the site, how do I get that value? So in order for me to get the value for an object, I call the object, then I use dot, and then whatever name within the object that I have. So in this case, I want to get the value for site. I call it site. And if I refresh my browser now, then it's going to give me, so this is my object. And within this object, there's different variable that I've assigned. And I want to pull out the value for site. In this case, it's going to be mark.com. And the next is the array. There's a whole bunch of values. And I want to get the value for position 1. In this case, it will be 2. So this is what it is. And also, I'm going to delete this out, this as well, this as well. And then what I want to show you is that within array, this is also known as multi-dimensional array, you can store different objects. So let's just say var a2, and then so this is my array, and then within the array I can store objects. So I can say name dot name1 ID is 1, followed by comma. So this becomes my 1, 2, 3. So there we go. So if you know how it works, let me explain it to you this way. So we have one row, which will be this. Second row, which will be this. Third row, which will be this. So if I call console this, and then refresh the browser, then it's going to show me 3 arrays. And then within these 3 arrays, there are 3 rows. So let me show you another better way to do this. You could use, so far we have been using console.log, but there's another way to show your data in your console, which is called table. So if I refresh the browser now, so now what it does is it looks like a regular table. So it has an index, like I was saying, 0, 1, 2, that, and then name. So this becomes just like your table. You have a column name, and then which is at the very top, and then you, in this case, the column name is name, and then you have ID, and then each row has its appropriate value based on that column. So this is how you use objects and array and assign them to a variable. All right, guys, I'll see you in the next video. All right, welcome back to this training, and hopefully up until now you have been learning a lot. If you have any question, there is a button up top on the right hand side where it says contact. You can click on it and you can send me any questions that you may have or you're not really sure about, or if you just want to check in with me saying, hey, this is how I'm doing, and so on and so forth. Whatever the case might be, I'm here to help you to make sure you succeed in becoming a great web developer. Having said that, so let's move on. Thus far, we have been going over some of the basic structure of JavaScript, which is interacting with BOM, which is a browser object model. And now we're going to be going over the DOM, which is also known as document object model. In case you never even heard of this DOM situation before, or this term, basically how it works is, let me zoom in so you can see it. So when you open up your web browser, or if you go to any website, there is a within the website there's a page called web page, and within that web page there are certain elements that each and every single page has. At the very top is called the document, which will be the window. Like for example, all of this window, the white space, that's called the document. And then within the document, you can have different elements. Like for example, your HTML tag, which is known as the tag, by the way. And then we can have a head tag. And then within the header, you can have different things. And then within the header tag, you can have titles or text. And then there's another tag called body. And then within the body tag, which is actually what all of this things reside. And then within those tags, you will have your href tag, which is your hyperlink, and then also your h1 and any videos, pictures that you may want to include within your web page. This is what you're going to have. So let me just show you really what it looks like when you open up the web page and look at the source code. So this is what the source code looks like. So at the very top, which is your document, and then you have an element tag called HTML. And then within this HTML, let me just make it a tab over so it makes it a little more prettier. So we got the HTML tag. And then within this tag, you have the header tag. And then you have the body tag. So let me move this over. So it looks a little prettier. So you have two tags within the HTML. You got the header. And then within the header, you have a title, which is what basically what that means is that this is what the page is called. And this is something that you see like up top where it says easily master. This is something that you will see. And that's what this title tags mean. And then you have several other tags and elements that you can add. And then, but let's move on to further, which is your body tag. Then which is your body tag you have in this particular page, h1, paragraph, and an image. And this is your document. And this is the stuff that we're going to be going over, how to manipulate, as well as how we can add some of the stuff to our body. So within here, if we want to add a new element, like for example, new div or new paragraph or new image on demand, with JavaScript as well as jQuery, but as you'll learn later on, it's a lot easier to manipulate some of the elements of your web page within jQuery rather than doing it within a plain JavaScript. The reason being, in my opinion, is because you don't have to worry about maintaining any of the compatibility issue. So if you want to, for example, if you created a page that is strictly written in JavaScript and use a really cool function and functionality, and then later on to see that you use in Chrome, it works great. But later on when you went into Internet Explorer, half of the stuff does not work because of the compatibility issue. And I would advise you to use a framework like jQuery, so that way any of the compatibilities that may arise, you don't have to worry about it, because the people who write and maintain jQuery, they will be handling all of that for you. So having said that, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how we can do things in plain JavaScript, which is also known as vanilla JavaScript, and then we're going to upgrade it to using jQuery, and you will see how easy it is. But we will see that later on. Having said that, I just wanted to show you quickly what we are going to be learning. So I'll see you in the next. Alright, welcome back. In this video, I'm going to share with you how you can manipulate your DOM objects and elements and all of its attributes. So let's get started. So on the left hand side, which is going to be our HTML source code, I've added a CSS, Bootstrap CSS, so which will make the elements or the look and feel of our web page a little prettier. So for example, this is the form that we have, and I want to show you how you can easily manipulate any of its properties and change any of its values on the page and add other stuff. So let's get started. So I'm going to open up the inspect window and then open up the console, so that way we have it. And also what I did was I included a new JavaScript file called dom-app.js, and in here the very first line is this document. In order for you to access any of your page or your DOM, more specifically property, you have to add in the word document. So what I did was I just set this to be a variable called d. So if I want to console d, let's see what that looks like. So console d and I'll save it. And then what it's going to do, I'm going to make this a little bigger, is going to give us all of the web pages source code in a nutshell. All of its element is going to give us the HTML tag. Then within the HTML, it's going to say you have 2 more tags, which is the header. And then within the header, you have element. We have a title, we have a link, we have a script, and then if we close this, it goes to the body tag. And then within the body tag, we have several different objects as well as elements. So that's how we get the property for our whole document. However, let's just go through it. So let's suppose for a second that you want to know what is the page title. More specifically, what that means is like, what does it say on top of your page? And also, this is the property of this. What is it saying between this tag and this tag in between? If you want to know what the title is, you can easily do this. You can just say title and then refresh the page. Then it's going to give us a title which says to-do list. By the same token, if you want to change this title to be something else, you can easily do this by saying my new page. So if I do this, pay close attention to this part right here. So now it says my new page, and then that's that. So you can get it, and also you can set a value to it. So I'm gonna delete that out. So let's say if I want to get the script tag. So if I refresh the page now, then it's gonna show me the HTML collection, and within this collection, right now I only have one script, which is going to be my JavaScript file. And if I want to just get the source code for that or this property, I could just say 0, and then it's going to give us this property right here. And it's going to say, hey, this is a line of code. If I want to do further investigation into it and get the source of it, I could do that too. But let's move on. We will get to it later on. And let's go to the next one, which is the URL property. So if I refresh the page, now what this is going to do is this is going to give you exact URL that is in your browser. So for example, currently the URL is localhost/course/. So if I add something to it, let's just say ID equal 123, and then I refresh the browser, then it's going to give you the exact same URL. This will come in handy if your web application requires for you to send the exact URL for some tracking purposes. So this is a great feature to have or know about it. By the same token, if you just want to know the domain of the page in which your code resides, you can also just type in the word domain rather than URL. And the domain, basically what it's going to do is it's just going to give you, in this case, it will be localhost. But in your case, it will be whatever website that you have your code residing, that's what it's going to be. So for example, it could be my website name.com or codewithmark.com or google.com or whatever the case might be. That's what the domain will be over here. All right, so let's move on. Next, we're going to look at the head tag. So if I refresh this, now it's going to give us everything within the head. Just like a body, we saw it before, but now it's going to give us everything within the head tag. All right, so let's move on. So now we want to see everything within the body tag. So let's see what happens when we do this. Oh no, it says null. Why is that? Okay, let's go back to our HTML page. And the reason why it doesn't give us anything besides the head tag, which is over here, and it doesn't give us the body tag, is because our JavaScript file resides right here. And then when the page loads up And this is the first thing that it loads after our CSS and all the other stuff. So it's going to give us everything above and not below. But if we want to get all the elements on the page, we could do one of two things. One is simply just move that script at the bottom of the page. And now if we rerun the page, now we're going to get the body element, all of its properties as well. That's one way to do it. However, I'm going to move it back here. Another way to do it is to include this code. So what that basically says is when the document is loaded and everything is printed on your document. So for in other words, when your window loads up, like on the right hand side, the white screen, when it loads up and everything is like all of this text is printed, then do whatever the code is in here. So I'm going to move this here and save it. And then do whatever operation that we want to do in here. Otherwise, don't do anything. So if I reload the page, it's going to give us the body tag and all of its element within it. And then at the same time, this strip tag is still where it originally was. So that's the reason why. So in case if you see that in your project, you're like, I don't understand. How come it's not working? That's probably the reason why. Because you have your script, your JavaScript file calling somewhere in your header and not at the body. So easy solution is you can either include it after the body, or you can use this method that says, hey, wait for the DOM to be completely loaded and all of its content is printed on the screen. And then once it's done, then we can proceed. Okay, let's move on. So next thing we are going to look at is, let me clear this up and I no longer want to do this. Next thing we're going to look at it, actually I could just completely close this out for now. So we have this simple form which has two input. One is the name, another one is description, and then we have a button which has a label or HTML that says view all tasks. If we want to modify its property, we have to first call it. We have several different ways to communicate with this particular button. One is to get all of its property, and then we can do that either calling it by ID. So let's look at all of its property first before we dive into how to call it. So if I scroll down, and by the way guys, this is just simple HTML. There's nothing special about it. So not to worry about it, because the whole scope of this project or this training series is to teach you JavaScript and not basic HTML. So having said that, so this is the button line of code. So basically what it says, open up a div, it's a div, and then within the div, it uses a class, and then it uses the syntax for bootstrap, which is also CSS, makes everything looks pretty. It includes the button and then adds a property, then it centers the text. And that's that. And then after that, I have added another class, which is called btn class. And then it has an attribute of ID. And then within this div, there's a HTML, which is set to view all tasks. So let's say if we want to access the attribute called ID, and we want to change that says view all tasks to say something different. How can we do that via JavaScript? Easy. What we can do is we can say document get element ID, and then we can specify the ID. In this case, it is my underscore btn. So I'm gonna just type it here, And then what I want to do now is manipulate is inner HTML. That's what it's called. So within the div and inside of the div, this is the text, and that has a property of inner HTML. Inner HTML. And then I want to say change it to new task. Change new text. I'm just going to change this lowercase HTML to uppercase HTML. Save it and refresh the page. Now it says new task rather than view all tasks. So that's how you can manipulate its property by ID. That's one way to do it. Another way to do it is by class name. So what is the class name? In this case, the class name is this. So we can go in here, call it document. Let's just set this to be a first and get all of its property. Call it get element by class name. And then we can specify the class name. Let's see what this gives us. Let's just console this out. Call it A. So I'm going to open up my console log and then go up to console. And if I refresh the page now, then it's going to give us this. Let me make this a little bigger. So it's going to give us, because it says get elements, that's plural, so it's going to get all the elements that has that class, and then if we want, we can cycle through them by for loop and then say, hey, attach that element. So in this case it would be 0. So for example, if I just type in 0 in it, which is the very first value, then it's going to just give me that. And if I want to change this, I could just say inner HTML. I'll just call it class text. And I'll change that off and I'll take out the console. I don't want to save it. I'll save this and refresh this. Now it says inner text. So if you only have one class name on your page and you know you only have one, you could just add in the array that says only give me the first value and not more than that. But if there are countless or a lot of values, elements for the same class, then you want to use the for loop to cycle through them until you get the appropriate one. All right, so that's the second way to do it. I'm going to show you another way, which is by, we can say query document. So we're going to say document query selector. This is a very handy method to do this, because in this way you can use either your ID or by class name. So for example, in the very first example, we use the ID. So what we can do is we can literally say ID, and if we know it's an ID, we have to put a pound sign in front of it, and then what we can say inner HTML equal my ID button. And if we refresh the page, now you'll see it changes the value of it. Simple enough, right? Very simple. All right, so let's do one more thing. Rather than changing the text value of this, let's just add some value for the input box. So let's do this. So we're going to go back to our page and get this class. Let's just get the class for the name. So we're going to get the class for the name, and we're going to use the same concept. We're going to say document query selector. In this case, we want to use a class name. So if we are using class name, we have to put a period in front of it. And then we could say, instead of saying inner HTML this time, because this is a value input, we want to say the word value equal, we'll just say code with mark, something like that. Or you could type in whatever you like, obviously, right? So if I refresh the page, we want to see two things. One, the word code with mark comes in here. And second, this is my ID button. Those two will appear. And voila, like I said, here we go. So this is how we can easily manipulate our attributes of the page. And in the next video, we will continue this, and I'll show you a few more things that you will find it very helpful, which will be your attribute, how you can get the value of the attributes, how you can remove it, and also how you can set new attributes. And just so you know, attributes meaning, in this case, for in the case of our button, which is a div, ID is an attribute of the div. And if you want to get a value of it, we can get the value of this. And that's what I'm going to show you in the next video. If you found that helpful, click on the link below to get the rest of this course.